Good morning, and thank you for joining me today. As you're aware, we had an officer-involved shooting this past Saturday morning. It is always a very difficult situation when a member of our law enforcement community is involved in a shooting event. To that end, the matter, as you know, properly and should be and is being handled by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. We handle no parts of the investigation, for it makes no sense for us to investigate ourselves in these types of matters. So we have no comment about it. The GBI is totally in charge of that investigation, and any updates regarding the incident will come from the GBI. We also continue to pray for the Ukrainian people, and we stand with them in solidarity as they continue the fight against the terror and evil that's being inflicted upon their country. And Thursday, strangely enough, marked 2 years since we began illuminating City Hall in red to show solidarity with those who lost the battle to COVID-19. It's been a long battle and a difficult battle, but thanks to vaccines and smart practices, we are getting to a new normal. Why that's important is because as of March 18th, if you notice, the City Hall was no longer red, it was white. And this week, we will light in blue and gold to show solidarity with the Ukrainian people. Last week, I've had the pleasure of joining other leaders, including the governor, in celebration of the completion of the latest deepening project for the Savannah Port. Great ceremony, obviously a lot of questions for us. The reality is that the port has now been deepened as much as it can be deepened. And now there are studies in terms of the bridge and the availability of larger ships to pass through our port. And I've heard options that could be considered to include heightening the bridge, removing the bridge, and all of these variety of other things. I say then, I say now, it is important for us as a community to keep our eyes on these projects, and the city will continue to do that. We will not sacrifice the vitality of our community, the strength of our neighborhoods for economic vitality for the port. So we're supportive, but we understand that the bridge and other things are also connected to communities. And so some of the people who are pushing for some of these things don't live here. And so we want to make sure that as they plan with us, because we're responsible for protecting those neighborhoods and protecting those communities. So after I updated you that the fire was out last Tuesday on Louisville Road, Savannah firefighters were again dispatched to the fire that had rekindled itself at a recycling center in the 1900 block of Louisville Road, where a 60-foot mound of compressed wood chips and lumber debris was on fire. And after several hard days of hard work by Savannah's bravest, the fire is now finally out and has remained out. And again, shouts out to our whole Savannah fire team, and we want to send special shouts out to Public Information Officer Janelle Few, who did an awesome job of keeping all of us updated as to the status of this fire. The City of Savannah is also hosting today a networking event for local disadvantaged businesses right now until 1 o'clock p.m. at the Savannah Convention Center as a part of our 100% Savannah initiative. The city is partnering with McKinstry, a national construction and energy contractor, to welcome community business leaders interested in sustainability and zero carbon and energy optimization in the construction and building maintenance and operations arenas. And so we want to make sure that as we move forward, that people have the opportunity to move forward together. And that includes our minority and women-owned businesses. And so I want to thank our economic development and sustainability teams for pulling this together, and I'll be heading there after this. Today is the last day of Women's History Month videos. So we will post our final video celebrating the City of Savannah's women to our TikTok account at City of Savannah, at City of Savannah. And if you do not follow us there, again, make sure that you do. And then we will post those videos to Facebook and Instagram later today. And this is, again, a part of our intentional willingness to make sure we include everybody to the table and that we celebrate the diversity of everybody at Savannah's table. And want to thank our Public Communications Department for leading that effort. And speaking of celebrations, April 1st is not an April Fool around here. We are gearing up for our summer camps, and we expect that parents will be so happy to get their kids out of the house finally for summer to do something other than be at home. And so April 1st is the first day that you can sign your child up for their preferred camp. This is the first day to sign up, and I'm sure that slots will fill up fast. And you'll be able to sign up online at savannahga.gov/rec camp. savannahga.gov/rec, R-E-C camp. And again, it is more cost efficient if you live in the city of Savannah. If you don't live in the city of Savannah, you're going to pay a premium rate. Recreation and Leisure Services is also hosting a seasonal hiring event on April the 16th from 9 to 3, and they're hiring for lifeguards and part-time and full-time recreation leaders. And I believe that the city manager and I are going to volunteer to be recreational leaders for a day, and maybe we'll ask the police chief to join us. Spring sessions at the Cultural Arts Center start April the 4th. Registration is open still for adult, teen, and adult classes, 8 weeks, and the youth and teen classes, 6 weeks. Visit savannahga.gov/cultural resources, savannahga.gov/cultural resources for more information. As we move into April, April is Fair Housing Month. And to kick it off, Human Services is hosting a block party at the Pennsylvania Avenue Resource Center, which is known as the Park, on Saturday, April the 9th, beginning at 10 o'clock a.m. And so free tax preparation services will still be available, including applications for the city's home repair assistance program, property maintenance tips, and more. And more information will be released across our website and social media pages later this week. And as you know, we are still marching forward to reestablishing a fair housing council here in Savannah again. We used to have one that died due to lack of funding, but we recognize that people are still discriminating on the basis of housing, and we need to have a mechanism here to be able to do that. So we are again, actively working on reestablishing the Fair Housing Council here. And of course, last Saturday was the great Savannah Community Cleanup, and oh, what a great day that it was here in Savannah. The great Savannah Community Cleanup is a citywide day of service where residents, businesses, and local community organizations come together to help clean up our city. And I want to thank everybody. And there were a lot of pictures, a lot of people, and a lot of places. I want to thank the aldermen from their districts that had worked with folks in their districts. Thank everyone else. We do this together. We keep our city beautiful together. And It's also important as we talk about that, this Friday is the last day for you to file for your homestead exemption. This is an extremely important opportunity for you to save money. If you live in a house that you own, you may be able to receive a significant discount on what you pay in property taxes. There is more than one exemption. There's an exemption for seniors, an exemption for military, but you will not get that opportunity unless you apply for it. This is administered through the Chatham County Board of Assessors office, and so we want you to call them, 912-652-7271, 912-652-7271. Tell them the mayor told you to call, but ask about your property exemption. Make sure you ask about it. Or you can visit their website at boa.chathamcountyga.gov, boa.chathamcountyga.gov. And remember, the deadline to file is April the 1st, this Friday. So that ends my prepared remarks, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning.
So let's go back on the homestead exemption. Can you talk about how critical that could be for homeowners, specifically at this time right now, to save their money?
For the homestead? It's extremely important. The fact is, and it's always bristled me a little bit, because people talk about how the taxes go up. And the taxes go up for a variety of reasons. And the city of Savannah, if you look over the years, city taxes have actually gone down. And we've actually tried very hard to either reduce or maintain our tax level. Now, the county's taxes have gone up, the school board's taxes have gone up. And then, of course, valuation is how your house is, so the fact is your property becomes more valuable. As your property becomes more valuable, then taxes are applied to that. And so people say, I don't want my taxes to go up, but then you're basically saying you don't want your value of your property to increase as well. So that being said, there are avenues by which people can legally reduce their tax liability, and that's through the homestead exemption. I own a home. The home I live in, I have an exemption for, and so my taxes are not as high because I filed for that exemption. And so our goal in talking about economic strength is to do two things. First thing is, let's find ways to have people take advantage of money that is already out there for them. So one, you own a home, you can now apply for an exemption. That lowers your tax liability. There are people out there who are eligible for the earned income credit. And so that's why we partner with VITA to be able to do taxes so that you can get the money you're entitled to. I mean, the goal is not necessarily seeking new money, but there's money out there that's, in either reductions or in credits that you can get. So we want people to actively engage. We recognize that we don't control either, but we certainly can point people in that direction. So.
And then where are you all at as with the city as far as the T-Spots project with Chatham County?
We're still talking. Again, I think I've made myself absolutely clear about where I was in this, and so the city manager is talking with his counterparts, and we'll see if we can get it worked out. Again, for me, it's important when we talk about transportation that we're talking about all transportation to include public transportation. It's important that we talk about countywide transportation. There is no reason in my mind why a community like ours should not have a community-wide public transportation. And so, we recognize that we're part of a bigger community, but we're also a big part of that community. And so we're going to advocate for the things that our citizens say that they want and say that they need. And so we'll allow the city manager to continue to work with his colleagues at the county and other municipalities to try to get it worked out.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning.
Talk a little bit about some of your specific concerns when it comes to potentially changing or rebuilding the Talmadge Bridge. You touched on you don't want to sacrifice what we need for economic gain. Can you talk specifics on that?
Well, I mean, if you look at our community, we're a pretty compact community. And so I don't think you wait until a plan is done before you express that you need to be a part of that solution. So they're studying it. The study will take about 2 years. But the reality was, for many of you, you remember what happened when this bridge was being built. The goal is, when you have a bridge, you have to have lead time to get to that bridge. Well, when you create that lead time, where does it come from? It comes from existing streets, it comes from existing neighborhoods, and so we want to make sure we are cognizant of that. Then also, of course, we all know that we've had an increased amount of truck traffic throughout our community, and we know that a lot of that is because of the port. We accept it for what it is. We also recognize that, it takes a toll on local taxpayers. And so we're saying that whatever is being planned, we want to be at that table, because we recognize that we're the stewards of the people who actually live here. And so you have people in Atlanta say, oh, well, we'll just knock it down and we'll just put another bridge up, or a bigger bridge, or we'll just dig a tunnel and we'll do this, or we'll just, anything as it relates to that affects people here. And so as the stewards of those who live here, then we want to make sure that we're a part of that equation. I think that we're all very happy about the fast-growing rate of the ports. Certainly it's good for Georgia, but on the other end of it, there are people who live here, and they are feeling those real effects every day. We want to make sure that that we're not unduly affected because of it.
And my second question, I know that the city police department cannot comment on the officer involved shooting, but it happened in the city market area.
Sure.
There's a reputation down there for guns going off. Is it even feasible? Has it been discussed of possibly making that a no-gun zone? Is that, you laugh a little bit, but... No,
I've heard that before.
Yeah, is that even a feasible thing? And this is, I've been here a couple of years, I'm an outsider coming in. Go ahead.
Well, I'm not sure that no-gun zones are even legal here in Georgia. So I think that's the first problem. You talk about public space, and then, how do you manage a no-gun zone if someone is able to constitutionally carry a weapon? When you look at the number of people who visit City Market daily, weekly, monthly, annually, it's relatively low events. Again, our law enforcement officers are charged to protect and serve, and there is a very clear criteria by which a police officer is authorized to use deadly force. It's part of a continuum that they're taught, and so the investigation ultimately will determine whether that was appropriate or not. But in terms of the numbers of people that are there, and I suspect in Georgia a lot of people are walking through there carrying guns, and so then who manages that? And then do you not create another problem by telling me I can't walk in here with my gun? It's kind of like mask. And you don't want to have those types of arguments with people with guns. I'm sure that we're continuing to always look at ways to create and maintain a safe environment. We rely a lot on business owners to do that, particularly they can regulate who comes in their establishment and create ways of being able to do that. But I'm not necessarily sure how do we do it through a no-gun zone, and how do you manage that? But we're always looking.
Morning, sir.
Good morning.
Just a quick question about the Fair Housing Council reboot.
Mm-hmm.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I think the last one, while in a partnership with the city, was more of an independent entity.
Yes.
Will that be the same this time around?
I would hope so. The goal was that the city was the purveyor. We supported it because we supported fair housing. We know, and particularly now with all of the things going on, we know that there are people who are being treated differently beyond things that are legally protected. Right now, it's really not a big avenue for them to go and do that. We need an independent watchdog. He was the primary provider of funds for that, and essentially, I guess it was 2017-ish, 2018-ish. When the money went away, the organization folded. Mr. Melder knows with his background how important fair housing is, and again, we just have to come up with a mechanism. I don't think it should be an arm of the city. but we should help them to be able to do that community-wide. And we would ask our partners at the county and other municipalities to help as well. But we don't mind taking that lead.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Let's be nice to each other. And I'll say this, and then I'll go. I shouldn't say it, but I'm going to say it. I've been reflecting a lot about the slap heard around the world. And as much as people have talked about it, it has implications because we talk about how grown people handle disagreement. And I'm glad it seems like people are kumbayaing and we get, statements, but the fact of the matter was that you had words that ended up in being violence. And it shows you really how quickly things can escalate. And I think for us, no matter whose team you're on, the goal was that people look very horrified that here, next thing you know, somebody walks on the stage and swings. And that happens in our communities. The difference is that then somebody else pulls out a gun and they shoot. And that is what we have to be able to teach our young men to be able to have restraint. We have to be able to address issues of mental health with our young people, whatever the things that they're dealing with, how to deal with them. And we have to have people who are conscious enough and brave enough to step in and say, no, we're not going to do that. It's not worth it. And so for us, as horrific as it was, it's a teaching moment that, no matter how rich we are, no matter how sophisticated we are, we all have our moments. But we have to be careful about how we handle those moments. And then we have to extend people grace where we can, and we have to be able to try to work things out, hug things out, talk things out wherever we can. And so although this was in California, it resonates here in Savannah because that's what we're telling young people. They might have talked about somebody, but you don't have to go and exercise violence. Let's talk about it later on. And hopefully that, we can use that as a teaching moment here to help our young people to make different and better decisions.
Mr. Mayor, Will Smith, he's a role model around the world.
I love Will Smith.
Yeah. What sort of opportunity does he have here now, especially with black young men? And that's something we deal with in the city. There seems to be an opportunity he has after what he did. Can you talk about how you make best in it?
Well, I think that's the whole point of what I was saying is that hopefully, and I'm hoping that our community, our parents, our coaches, our police, where we can use this as a learning opportunity. And certainly I think he will be forever different because of this. To be able to say, you know what, that's not the best way to handle it. Because what ended up happening was an event that, was really going well was changed because of this occurring. And so I'm hoping to use that opportunity to talk to young people and just say, hey, there are other ways that you could address that. Then the other fact is that, for Chris Rock, I mean, here you have a man that just slapped him. And, I had to think, because I think it might have been a brawler going on, had it been me. But again, it helps me to talk about, here's an opportunity for restraint, because it takes two people to fight. And so this could have escalated to something uglier, and to his credit, Chris Rock kind of, really finessed that, because it could have been a lot worse. And so again, on the other end of it, we have young people, well, is this worth escalating? Or do I take a step back and be able to try to diffuse it and de-escalate it? So again, I think plenty of opportunities here.
And finally, if you just talk about opportunities for redemption and how we handle redemption, leaving room for that or something like that?
Sure. Life is hard. Life is difficult. You never know what people are dealing with, and just because they have money or fame or fortune, you just never know what people are going through. I know I live my life somewhat in a fishbowl, and I think people don't understand sometimes the things I deal with in a fishbowl. So could you imagine the fishbowl that he is in? And, I guess on the other end of it, if I had a wife and somebody's talking trash about my wife, that would have me feeling some kind of way. I think the first part is, I think that redemption is earned. It is earned by requesting it. I think the first part is to acknowledge you've done something wrong and apologize. He's done that. Obviously, there might be consequences for his actions. That's not for us to decide. Obviously, there should be consequences for assault. That is, it's a crime. But on the other end of it, I think that people apologize, and if they mean their apology and they're willing to work towards that redemption and whatever that is. I think he has a marvelous, marvelous platform now as an Oscar winner to be able to really say and do things that will reach and resonate with young people around the world. Because, hey, it happened to me. And I think people will listen to him, certainly more than they listen to me. So I think there's some great opportunities for him. And, I hope that, cooler heads prevail. They say that they're friends. I hope that they remain friends, and they can hug it out, and we all be better from this. All right. Thank you all so much. Have a great week.